Hello, everybody. This is Frank with Iron Age News. It is Tuesday, November 25th, 12 o'clock in the afternoon here on South Florida Conservative News Center. And once again, www.southfloridaconservative.com for additional articles on other topics, a wide range of reviews, and some helpful links. And we are going to talk about myth busting today. And the myth bust that we are going to be involved in is that James Comey and Letitia James are innocent or vindicated or cleared. They are none of those things. So that is just a dishonest media spin to keep the Democrats happy. If you've been around politics long enough, you already know whenever the media starts shouting exonerated, they usually means exactly the opposite. And this is one of those times. So let's discuss it rather quickly because there will be a new outrage in about 25 minutes. So within minutes of the ruling dropping, the headlines popped up. And if you've noticed, Comey even does a video because he's such an egomaniac, right? Comey cleared of Trump-backed prosecution. Letitia James vindicated. Moon will block out the sun. Political witch hunt dismissed. None of these are true. Not one of those is true, but they feed the exact story that the left wants, that Trump somehow used the DOJ to launch politically motivated charges, and the judge tossed them out because they were so flagrantly illegal that even a Republican judge would have done it. But we didn't have a Republican judge on this one, did we? Except that's not what happened. It wasn't even close. The real story, in plain English and written for a seventh grader, the judge did not rule on whether Comey or Letitia James were guilty or innocent. She didn't say the allegations were false. She didn't even look at the evidence. The entire case was thrown out because the prosecutor, Lindsay Halligan, was appointed incorrectly by the Department of Justice. That was it. It was a technicality, a procedural flaw. And it is nothing more than that. Nobody looked at anything. There was no question of innocence or guilt. It was a procedural flaw on the allocation of a prosecutor for the case. Now, imagine the cops catch a bank robber red-handed, but the arrest paperwork is filled out wrong. The robber walks free for the moment. So that's what you're dealing with, that kind of a thing. And just like that robber, Comey and James are not innocent. They are not cleared. They are simply walking out the side door because of a bureaucratic mistake, which the media is well aware of, but yet continues to not discuss. They continue to erode the rule of law in the United States. So, James Comey and Letitia James are two of the most politically weaponized figures in American public life. Comey interfered in a presidential election, then helped launch the fraudulent Russia hoax, which he continued up to this day. Pretty much. Letitia James literally ran for office on a promise to get Trump and put him in jail, then spent her entire tenure trying to make good on that campaign threat. These are not neutral actors. These are political hacks doing their job. And in their mind, their job is servicing the socialist movement in the Democratic Party. They are hiding behind a badge. Any sucker who does that, as they say, is even worse than the ones that are just living through the badge. So when their indictments got tossed out on a technicality, the political establishment, left and right, needed to protect the narrative. They needed the public to believe Trump lost another case. They needed the illusion of innocence. If you look at the amount of cases that Trump is supposed to have lost and which are actually wins or actually reversed cases that he had been put up on in the past or framed, he's doing really, really well. You're not going to see a line by line or side by side of his win loss because then people would have to think for a minute, and we can't have that. We cannot have people think. So the truth is, You could still prosecute them, but what happens in these kind of things, well, we'll get into that. The case can be refiled. The case can be refiled. The judge didn't dismiss the charges with prejudice. There is without prejudice and when there was with prejudice. If it had been dismissed with prejudice, you weren't going to be able to get back in there. She did not say the allegations were invalid because in this turbulent world where sometimes bad people do get punished for bad things, she can't just do the Kafka-esque trial that I'm sure that they would have liked to have done. They simply say the prosecutor wasn't properly appointed. Now, a properly appointed U.S. attorney under a future lawful Department of Justice can bring the exact same charges again. Now, Comey and James and their lawyers know it, and that's why they're going out there and making it like we am vindicated. We am not vindicated. We am far from that. All right. The thing is, will they spend the money and time to go out after them again? Is there not something else they can find to punish them with, which they do not have to go to jail? I mean, yeah, jail or to go to court. So we've watched for years now as this legal system's been twisted up like a pretzel to get after Donald Trump. And even like they got his paper boy, they got his chief of staff. Remember when they got his valet? The guy who's the guy who puts out his pajamas, the guy who makes sure his sleeping area is covered with accoutrement, was also being brought in and thumped up, if you recall, when they raided Mar-a-Lago. That is abuse of a position. That is what the Comeys and the Letitia Jameses and the Adam Schiffs of the world love to do, and somehow they magically float above the law, except maybe not anymore. Schiff still has to be brought to justice for his open lying on television, in magazines, newspaper, clay tablets, where he says, and I will paraphrase, I have damning evidence against President Trump in my possession that proves without a shadow of a doubt that he was involved in a Russian collusion. Does anybody remember that? Never has it been shown. Why hasn't somebody sent a search warrant or something, a subpoena? Nothing, right? You got him. The thing is, the longer these things wait, the statute of limitations runs out. And you have to have a prosecutor who's willing to pursue it. DOJ, I would say, is still 70-30 bad guys to good guys working in there. So the thing is, if I put a prosecutor I don't know in there, are they going to tank it just to tank it? You know, that is a real possibility still. There are not a lot of prosecutors that came in from the other administration that the Trump administration can trust. It's very true. FBI is still the same way too. I don't care what Kash Patel does. All right, there is still a hardcore bunch of turds in that punch bowl that are out there making it hard on everybody. And it's a known thing. Those of you who have access to the Washington Insider Corps will have known that from anybody saying these bitches don't even hide their opposition to the president. So if they're going to wait this long, if they're going to wait till the next time Trump returns to office, it's going to be getting close. They should refile immediately because this is when they're going to slip up and say stupid shit on television and maybe a little bit more there they can handle. And that would be the way to go. They cannot wait till the next. They cannot wait till the next election cycle. He's got to have these people in the dock before the midterm election. They've got to be getting their asses kicked before the midterm election. They have to be made to squeal before the midterm election. They did not come up with this shit on their own. There are other people in there, and I'll tell you what, James Comey may be a hard guy when he's out there whipping your ass hiding behind a badge. But if he were looking at 15 years in a rape factory down south somewhere, although he may like it, he's not going to like it with the frequency they're going to want to give it to him. He will also talk. They all talk in the end. It's how it is. You throw enough years at everybody, they're going to talk in the end. So that's what's going on there. Don't let anybody tell you anything different. It's not true. It had to do with a procedural error, which was picked up. It was a question mark, I think, when it even started. And then they went back and did the due diligence on it. They made a big thing of it because it could have been, I believe, like passed over. It wasn't such a big deal. But they made a big deal of it, and therefore they were able to get this thing thrown out. So that's about all for now. Hope you have a good week. It's 12:16. Talk to you later on.